Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography based here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. Today, we take a look at a serious lens for the Micro Four Thirds system. We've gushed for some time now about Olympus's amazing prime lenses, and there are a lot of them. Well, now we take a look at Olympus's first real foray into serious professional zoom territory for the Micro Four Thirds system. This is the Olympus 12-40mm f2.8 Pro Series lens. It's a well-built, fast, constant aperture zoom that puts professional photographers into the heart of Olympus's crosshairs. With a 24-80 full-frame equivalent field of view, which is the bread and butter for a lot of wedding photographers and photojournalists, amongst many other kinds of photographers as well. But is this lens good enough to convert DSLR diehards over to Micro Four Thirds? Well, let's find out. Olympus introduced the 12-40mm f2.8 at the same time they introduced their top-of-the-line Micro Four Thirds camera, the EM1, in September of 2013. This lens is aimed squarely at pros with its useful focal range and constant f2.8 aperture. It's pretty clear that, like Panasonic, Olympus is trying really hard to woo DSLR shooters into the Micro Four Thirds cam. With great optics and ultra-fast focus, is there enough here for many photographers to let go of the silly notion or question, will my clients take me seriously if I show up to a paid shoot with this thing? Well, I'm kind of being cheeky with that comment, but you have to question what your clients might think if you show up to a shoot with a quote-unquote camera that's only slightly larger than their cell phones and claim you're a professional. Well, after reviewing this lens, I may be the very first one to kiss that stereotype goodbye forever. So let's take a walk around the lens and examine its build quality. And well, it's a really nice surprise. This is Olympus's first in their new line of Pro Series lenses. Comes in at nearly 14 ounces, which is pretty weighty for a Micro Four Thirds body. But if you're like me and you're coming from a traditional 24-70 f2.8 mated to a big DSLR, then this thing's going to feel like a toy. On the inside, there are 14 elements in 9 groups, and there are 7 aperture blades. The filter thread is a bit on the smaller side. It's only 62 millimeters. The lens is also mostly made out of metal, and frankly, it's the best built Micro Four Thirds lens that I've used or tested. Even the lens hood and lens cap are made out of really durable plastic. This thing feels substantial. It's almost like a hockey puck. Now, the focus and zoom rings are really tight and really fluid. You can actually hear the air pressure when the zoom is zoomed in and zoomed out. And keep in mind, because you can hear it, that means it's noticeably audible if you're going to be recording video with this thing. So keep in mind, if you're going to use the OMD in this lens and you need to zoom, make sure you get an external recording device. You're going to need it. The focus ring is really smooth as well, and it also allows you to toggle between auto and manual focus with this clutch mechanism. Now, we've seen this type of setup before with other third-party lenses, like one with Tokina, for example. This one is much better executed and works a whole heck of a lot better. It's a lot more refined, and it's just a whole lot better. When you feel it, you can tell how refined it is. What's also really cool about the manual focus setup here is that it's fly-by-wire. So with this lens, let's say, for example, that you're zoomed way out on a subject that's far away and you're focused on it, but let's say you've also pre-focused on a subject that's really close by with the manual focus. Well, when you toggle from auto to manual, the focus motor will snap immediately to the point that you set on this manual. It's a really neat cinematic effect. It instantly focuses on the near subject. It's really neat. Now, the lens is also weather sealed, which at this price point, yeah, that's more or less expected. So to sum it up, for build, the Olympus really impresses. It's metal, it's weather sealed, it comes complete with well-dampened focus and zoom rings. So really, what's not to love? Nothing. So for build, the Oly gets a perfect 10 out of 10. Okay, so next up is focus speed and accuracy. As you know, it's one thing to have great optics, but frankly, they are useless unless the lens can lock on focus quickly and accurately. Fortunately, this is the one area where the 12-40 excels. I mean, it's blisteringly fast. Simply put, it's almost like Olympus stuck a Ferrari engine in there with some really high-powered Brembo brakes, because this thing finds focus so fast, it's nothing short of eye-popping. I mean, it's seriously, seriously fast. It's one of the fastest and best that I've ever used on any system. But is it accurate? Well, in a word, yeah, it is. In fact, it's as marksman accurate as you can possibly imagine. On the downside, it's a little bit less accurate and responsive in low light situations, where frankly, most lenses tend to struggle in those kinds of situations as well. But it's still just as good, if not better, than most of my Canon gear that I currently use right now. But it's one thing to talk about it. Let me just do a quick test. The beep is on, and I'm going to focus on something that's far away. So here we go. You ready? Bam. I mean, you hear that? That's fast. Now let's set this thing to infinity and focus on something really close. Let's focus on this. I mean, bam. You get the idea. So it's pretty amazing. So for focus speed and accuracy, the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 gets another perfect 10 out of 10. So next up is optical quality and the quality of the results. Now I've used somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 lenses during my career, and the 24-70 focal length equivalent is one of the critical general purpose focal lengths that most pros require. The Olympus 12-40 f2.8 is an amazing piece of engineering in this regard, especially when you consider its really paltry size and weight when compared to its DSLR competition. It's also a bit longer on the long end at 80 millimeters equivalent. I found that I mainly use the lens at f2.8 and it is sharp across the frame, with very good subject isolation and excellent out-of-focus bokeh rendering. An added benefit is that it has just under an 8-inch minimum focus distance, which gives the lens some added value as a macro lens. You can take a look at that example here with this flower photo. The 12-40 also handles flare reasonably well, and here's a flare photo you can take a look at too. All around, I have to say that I am really impressed. But that said, as with all of my reviews, rather than me talking up the optical quality, let me instead show you the optical quality. The next minute or two will be a series of stills and video clips utilizing the Olympus 12-40mm f2.8, and in a word, it is nothing short of awesome. Okay, so last up, and arguably most importantly, is value. The Olympus 12-40 f2.8 is a great lens with very few compromises. It has great optics, super fast focus, weather sealing, a constant wide f2.8 aperture, great build, and to cap it off, a very useful general purpose focal range. It's the kind of lens that a pro would demand if he or she were thinking about making the switch from full frame or APS-C cameras to micro four thirds. However, at $999, this is by no means an inexpensive lens, but compared to its nearest competitor, the Panasonic 12-35 f2.8, well, it's nearly $200 less than that. And if you're like me and you're coming from a full frame or APS-C sensor body from, say, Canon or Nikon, then the 24-70 f2.8 lenses from those guys are 1.5 to 2 times more expensive than this Olympus, which makes this a relatively great value. Those lenses from the other guys are also a heck of a lot bigger and heavier too. One additional point, and this is pretty important, if you're considering making the jump from a DSLR to a micro four thirds system like this or a system camera like this, just remember that you will sacrifice a little bit of depth of field in your photographs with a micro four thirds sensor, which is to say the subject isolation is going to be better on those full frame and APS-C cameras at f2.8 than this micro four thirds camera at f2.8. But truthfully, that's the kind of stuff that matters a whole lot more to me and you as photographers than it does to our clients. So really, that nit aside, there's a whole lot to love about the 12-40 from Olympus. So for value, this gets a very solid 9.5 out of 10. Okay, it's time to summarize and review the results of the Olympus 12-40 f2.8. Here is the thumbnail sketch. The build quality. It's top shelf, especially when compared to the build of the majority of Micro Four Thirds lenses currently available in the marketplace. It's mostly made out of metal with tight zoom and focus rings. The focus ring clutch mechanism is really fluid and really well implemented, much better than similar systems put out there by other manufacturers, notably Tokina, whose implementation of a similar clutch mechanism isn't nearly as refined as the Olympus. The 12-40 is also weather sealed. The whole thing just reeks of quality. Even the lens hood and lens cap are rock solid. It's also reasonably light, coming in at just under 14 ounces. It's a simply stellar effort. So for build, we gave the Olympus a perfect 10 out of 10. Focus speed and accuracy. Truthfully, I think it's the fastest I've ever tested. It's virtually instantaneous and incredibly accurate. The most talented marksman would be envious of the 12-40's focus speed and accuracy. It too was a perfect 10 out of 10. Optical quality and the quality of the results. Truthfully, I'm struggling to find some faults with the 12-40. It handles flare really well. It's so sharp in the center of the frame, your eyes are going to bleed. Till the diffraction sets in at narrow apertures, making the lens a little bit less sharp, say at f11, but under that, it's incredible. Other downsides, well, it noticeably vignettes at f2.8, but I'm really just splitting hairs here, as most of the issues with the 12-40 are easily correctable in Lightroom, so getting to the promised land is only a few clicks away. We gave it a 9.5 for optical quality and a 10 for the quality of the results. Value. When compared to the DSLR equivalents from both Canon and Nikon, etc., the 12-40 looks like a really good value, even when compared to its direct Micro Four Thirds competition, the Panasonic 12-35, which actually has a shorter focal range and is also $200 more. Well, if you're a pro and you're getting into the Micro Four Thirds system, then I think a lens like this becomes a requirement. Just keep in mind that f2.8 on Micro Four Thirds body is like f5.6 full frame equivalent with regard to depth of field. But I think most pros considering the Micro Four Thirds probably know that's a shortcoming of the system. And in reality, is your client really going to see the difference in the depth of field characteristics of a lens or a camera body that you and I will? Probably not. So for value, we give the 12-40 a 9.5 out of 10. Overall, it gets a 49 out of 50 and earns our Editor's Choice Award. It's also the new high score champion out of any lens that we've reviewed. So congratulations, Olympus, great job. The final word. If you need a fast general purpose Micro Four Thirds lens in your system, or and you're a pro or a serious enthusiast, then the 12-40 is one of the absolute must-have lenses for the Micro Four Thirds system. Offering the best of general purpose zoom range on a full frame equivalent of 24 to 80 millimeters and a constant fast f2.8 aperture, great optics, great build, ultra fast focus. I mean, all in, the 12-40 is just another insanely good lens courtesy of the folks over at Olympus. Just remember that quality this good has to come at a price. So to answer the original question, will your clients take you seriously if you show up with a Micro Four Thirds camera and this lens attached to it? Well, to answer that, I'd say it's not the size of the lens that matters, it's what you do with it. This is Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in beautiful sunny Naples, Florida. If you like these reviews, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, happy shooting.